To premise this video, I am gender fluid. I've been gender fluid my whole life, as far as I know. I've had gender dysphoria pretty much my whole life. Again, as far as I know, as long as I can remember, I've struggled with it. And I've also done a lot of research and tried to understand a lot of different parts of the LGBT community and also age regression. And I am currently in a college class in family resources called human development, and it has given me a lot of insight into how infants and then children so far develop both physically and mentally or socially. Part of why I took that class was to fulfill a requirement, but also just because I wanted to learn more about development so that I can transfer it to help regression. Or the regression community, not regression itself. So in this video, I'm going to be covering being gender fluid, possibly because of your experiences while in little space specifically. Little pride! Yee. It's fine if you don't agree with what I'm saying in this video. I do have basis for it in what I've learned both online and in my class from an actual textbook, from actual studies. But if you disagree, that is totally fine. We can have differing views. If you do have a different view, you are welcome to politely comment that below. But anyway, so a question that I get a lot as someone who is gender fluid and in the age regression community on Instagram is from someone else. If I feel like a different gender when I'm regressed, but it's only when I regress, am I gender fluid? Am I trans? And this can be probably one of two answers are the most common. Not saying this is only ever going to be one of the two answers. There may be another third answer, I don't know. But these are the two most common ones that I feel like I've seen people go through or that make sense to me. The first answer has to do with development. When actual children are going through a phase of experimentation, a lot of the times they will experiment with their own gender. That means that this is also why a lot of times really feminine women have been tomboys when they were little kids, because they were experimenting with being more masculine, being possibly almost a boy, things of that nature. That's just an example. Sometimes little kids can identify that they are another gender, and that's also why early transitioning is possibly harmful, because a lot of times kids may not know what they're talking about. They may be picking up on just a feeling that is associated with their experimentation versus an actual reality. So sometimes kids may say, "Oh, I'm a girl. Oh, I'm a boy, actually. Can you please treat me like one?" And that's perfectly fine. As a parent, I think that should be encouraged, and you should treat your child however they want to be treated, because then it also helps them to realize whether they are actually that or not. But the same thing can kind of happen when you age regress as a teenager or as an adult, because regression is an actual psychological shift. You do basically go to a previous, not only mindset almost, but just in the way that your thought processes work, how you behave, how you think, all of that kind of stuff gets changed into a previous state. So if it's common for actual children to experience different genders and experiment with that, then it makes sense that it would also be common for age regressors to experience similar things as to that experimentation with their gender. One clear marker that that's what's happening to you is if you have a period of time, let's say like 6 months, when every time you regress, you feel like the opposite gender. And then, after that 6 months, it changes to something else. Maybe you feel non-binary now every time you regress, or maybe you go back to your original gender when you regress. That means that for those 6 months, your brain, every time you regressed, was probably trying to experiment as it did before, or maybe because it didn't get to experiment before. So that is one possibility out of the two that I have seen and kind of like come up with. The other possibility comes down to how emotionally expressive and sensitive you are during your regression. A lot of people actually have found out that they are transgender through age regression. That is a thing that some people experience. Because what happens is a lot of people, when they are regressed, they are more sensitive, they're more open to their own emotions, and because of that, they experience gender dysphoria, whereas it may be being pushed back when they're not regressed. They may be pushing it deep into their subconscious when they're not regressed, and because of that, they don't notice that they have gender dysphoria. But then as soon as they do regress and all of that emotion comes back to them, and a lot of the times this is in impure regression, then they get overwhelmed by, I want to be this, and this is not what I am normally, which would be another gender. I hope this is making sense. I'm trying to explain it as very clearly as I can in kind of simple terms, but yeah. So if you are experiencing a gender shift when you are regressing, no, you are most likely not gender fluid. It's not how being gender fluid works. Someone who has had gender dysphoria relating to the fact that they're gender fluid their whole life, I can tell you that's not how being gender fluid works. If you're gender fluid, it doesn't matter if you're regressed or not regressed, because you will feel this gender, and then you will feel this gender, and then you'll feel this gender. It comes in periods, maybe not equal periods, but it will happen, and it will just be a part of your regular daily life. It won't be a part of your age regression. So if you are experiencing a gender shift when you regress, it could be either because your mind is experimenting just as you would have as a child, or it could be something from the subconscious that you weren't aware of before. And it's really tricky to decipher which it is. I understand that. And you could technically even find out that you are gender fluid through age regression if it keeps coming in very small periods and it just keeps happening and happening. You know, for me personally, when I am regressed, I get gender dysphoria triggered a lot more easily. So that's part of being able to recognize that you are trans during regression exclusively for some people. So I can totally understand either side, but end of story, it's probably one of those two. It's up to you to figure out, because only you know your emotions, your thought processes, your state of mind. And more often than not, no, it does not mean that you are gender fluid. It just means that you're going through either one of those two things. I hope this is helpful to people. This isn't me saying that people are invalid for their experiences. I fully welcome everyone's experiences, especially during regression, because that is a very sensitive headspace to be in. I just wanted to make a sort of educational video because I've been asked this question a lot, and I really don't think that's what it means. Also, if you like my onesie, it's by Littlitude, and I actually have a link for it from Amazon in my description. It's on my Amazon storefront, and if you go into Little Things, you can find this onesie, and if you buy it from that link, I will get a percentage of the profit. Gender fluid little gang. Woo. Anyway, I gotta go now because it's super hot and I'm dying. I don't know if you can see how oily my face is, but it's getting there. So bye.